Today we're venturing into the world of Ikigai.
Ah, yes, the really interesting Japanese concept. It gets linked a lot to, finding your purpose and living a long, happy life.
Exactly. And our main guide for this is the book Ikigai, The Japanese Secret to a Long and Happy Life. It's by Hector Garcia and Francesc Moral.
Yeah, and the story behind the book itself is pretty cool. The authors, they apparently met in a Tokyo bar.
Really?
Yeah, and they bonded over this shared curiosity about, well, why we humans are always searching for meaning.
Right. They talked about Viktor Frankl's logotherapy.
Uh-huh. The idea that finding purpose is like a core human drive.
But they noticed it wasn't maybe as big in Western therapy these days, even though people are definitely still looking for that meaning.
Absolutely. That fundamental need is still there. Frankl's whole thing was finding meaning is the motivator, even when things are tough.
So our mission today really is to dig into this book. We want to pull out the practical wisdom, the key insights.
Things that you, listening, can maybe apply to your own life. Get those sort of aha moments.
Yeah, insights for a longer, maybe more fulfilling life.
Mhm.
We'll be looking at some really interesting stuff from the book.
We will, like the 80% eating rule. Heard that?
Totally. Yeah. And the active mind, youthful body thing.
Right, how stress works, how to manage it, and this idea of flow.
Ooh, flow. I like that concept. And lessons from Japanese centenarians, too.
Definitely. Plus resilience and something called wabi-sabi. Lots to cover.
Okay, let's dive in. First up, this 80% rule. The book mentions a common Japanese saying, hara, hachi.
Right. You hear it apparently before or after meals sometimes, and it basically translates to fill your belly to 80%.
So it's about stopping before you're totally stuffed,
Yeah.
which, goes against how a lot of us eat sometimes.
Well, yeah. And in Okinawa, it's a conscious practice. People there actually try to stop eating when they hit that 80% mark.
And why? What's the thinking?
It's not just about feeling less bloated right after. It's more long-term health. The idea is avoiding overeating puts less strain on your body, less digestive work.
Okay.
And they think it slows down cellular oxidation. Basically, less wear and tear on your cells over time because you're not constantly overloading the system. It's subtle preventative care.
So not really about calorie counting per se, but more tuning into your body's signals.
Exactly. The practical bit is just pay attention, notice when you're starting to feel satisfied, and maybe stop there.
Makes sense. Put the fork down before you have to.
Right. That extra helping might not be necessary.
Okay. Moving on then. Book talks about mens sana in corpus sano.
Ah, the classic. A sound mind and a sound body.
Yeah, not a new idea, but the authors really stress how important keeping an active, adaptable mind is for staying, well, youthful.
And it seems like a positive cycle, right?
Yeah.
A youthful mindset encourages a healthier lifestyle.
Which then helps slow down the aging process itself. It's not just physical exercise. Keeping the mind busy is just as vital.
Totally. The book makes the point that just like your body needs exercise, your brain does too. Lack of mental exercise can actually lead to neurons and connections deteriorating.
Which then affects how we react to things around us.
Yeah. And there's this Israeli neuroscientist mentioned, Shlomo Brezhnitz.
Oh, yeah. What does he find?
His research suggests the brain needs constant stimulation to stay sharp. He noticed older people often get stuck in routines.
Routines can be comforting, though.
They can be efficient, sure, but they don't challenge the brain much. Brezhnitz argued we need to keep feeding it new information.
How does that help?
When you encounter something new, your brain has to form new connections. It sort of revitalizes it. Even small changes to your routine can help.
And there's science backing this up.
Yeah, the book mentions another book, Maximum Brain Power. It talks about how learning a new skill, even if it feels tough at first, gets easier.
And that process itself is good for you.
Exactly. It boosts your mood, your self-image. It's rewarding beyond just learning the thing.
And it doesn't have to be like learning quantum physics, right?
No, not at all. Simple interactions work too. Playing games, for instance, gives you new stimuli. Plus, it helps fight loneliness, which can lead to depression.
It's interesting that the book says neuron aging starts in our 20s.
Yeah, kind of scary. But the good news is things like intellectual activity, curiosity, wanting to learn, they can really slow that process down.
So the key anti-aging strategies for the mind are things like dealing with new situations.
Learning daily, playing games, interacting with others. Keep it active.
Got it. Seek out new things, keep learning, stay social.
Pretty much sums it up.
Okay, let's shift gears. Stress. Feels like it's everywhere these days.
Tell me about it. The book describes it as, well, a natural response, our body reacting to information it sees as dangerous or problematic.
And evolutionarily, that made sense.
Oh, absolutely. It helped our ancestors survive, fight or flight, right? Prepared them to deal with threats.
The book outlines the physical process, right? Starts with the threat perception.
Uh-huh. Neurons fire, trigger the pituitary gland, releases corticotropin.
Sympathetic nervous system kicks in, adrenal gland releases adrenaline and cortisol.
Yep, adrenaline gets the heart pumping, muscles ready. Cortisol boosts dopamine, blood sugar, gives you that energy surge.
The comparison the book makes is fascinating. Cave dwellers versus us.
Right. They were mostly relaxed, apparently. Stress hit only in, like, actual life or death moments, real threats.
Whereas we're often in this state of constant low-level alertness.
Exactly. Working all the time, emails pinging, social media notifications. The brain can perceive those as threats, too, even though they aren't saber-toothed tigers.
So those big bursts of cortisol and adrenaline were useful back then.
Healthy, even, helped them survive. But the chronic low-level drip of stress hormones we get now, the book suggests that's not so great for us long-term.
It wears you down.
It can.
Yeah.
But interestingly, the book also says low levels of stress can actually be beneficial.
Oh, how so?
It's about balance. Intense, sustained stress is bad, clearly. But a little bit can be motivating, keep you sharp.
Okay, so how do we manage the bad kind? The book talks about mindfulness, right?
Yes, that's a key method they introduce. It's about focusing inward, noticing your reactions, even the habitual ones, becoming aware.
Why is that helpful?
It helps you connect with the present moment, stops your thoughts from just spiraling out of control, which is often what stress feels like.
There's a mention of Roberto Alcibar.
Yeah, he talks about being on autopilot. We do things without really being aware, like mindlessly scrolling. We're not present.
Guilty as charged sometimes.
We all are. So mindfulness helps break that autopilot.
And the book lists ways to practice it.
Yep. Meditation, focused breathing exercises, yoga, body scans, things like that.
It sounds like it takes practice.
Definitely. It's gradual. But the idea is, with consistent effort, you get better at focusing your mind, which reduces stress and, hey, might even help you live longer.
Okay, quick detour sleep. The book has a little nugget about that.
Ah, yeah, the model's secret. Apparently, many aim for 9 or 10 hours before a show.
For healthy skin, radiance. It just highlights how crucial good rest is, doesn't it? For everything.
Absolutely fundamental, which connects nicely to the next idea, anti-aging attitudes.
The power of the mind over the body again.
Exactly. The book really emphasizes how our mental state impacts aging. The consensus among doctors, it says, is that keeping the mind active key part of Ikigai and not giving in easily to difficulties. That's the secret to a younger body.
Mental resilience, essentially.
And there was that Yeshiva University study mentioned.
What did that find?
That people who live the longest tend to share two things: a positive attitude and high emotional awareness.
So how you approach life and understand your feelings matters for longevity?
Seems it reminds me of Viktor Frankl again. The book brings him up here too.
What's his angle on this?
He thought health depends on this tension between what you've already done and what you still aim to do. You need challenges, goals, not just peace and quiet.
That's interesting. So striving is healthy?
In his view, yes. And the book links this to that feeling of existential crisis some people feel.
How so?
It suggests it can come from just doing what society expects or what you feel you should do rather than what you truly want to do. Creates a void.
And people try to fill that void.
Yeah, maybe with material things or just fleeting pleasures instead of finding genuine purpose.
The book uses Frankl's case studies to show logotherapy in action.
Yes, they're quite powerful. First, there's the American diplomat.
What was his story?
Hated his job, disliked his country's policies. He'd been through psychoanalysis before, focusing on, like, his dad.
Classic psychoanalysis.
Right. But Frankl looked deeper and saw the real issue was the guy fundamentally wanted a different career, a different path entirely.
So finding the root of the lack of meaning.
Exactly. Once the diplomat saw that, his perspective shifted. He could finish therapy with a clearer direction.
Then there's the suicidal mother.
Yeah, another really impactful one. Frankl had her do this thought experiment. Imagine you're on your deathbed looking back.
And what happened?
She realized the immense meaning she found in caring for her paralyzed son. Despite the hardship, her life was full of purpose, even if she hadn't fully seen it that way before.
Wow. Meaning can be hidden in plain sight sometimes.
It really can. The reflection helped her see the value she'd created.
And the last one? The doctor who lost his wife.
Ah, the grief-stricken doctor. Frankel didn't just offer sympathy. He asked him, what if you had died first?
That's a tough question.
It is, but the doctor realized his wife would have suffered immensely, and suddenly his own grief felt like the price he paid to spare her that pain.
Finding meaning even in suffering, that's profound. Shifting the focus.
Exactly. Responsibility sparing her. It reframed everything.
Okay, so those are examples of logotherapy. The book then discusses morita therapy. How's that different?
It contrasts quite a bit with Western approaches that often focus on controlling emotions. Morita therapy is more about accepting them.
Accepting feelings, even negative ones.
Yes. The idea is that feelings are like the weather, they come and go. You don't control them directly, but they change based on your actions.
So act your way into feeling differently.
Kind of. It aims to create new emotions through experience, through doing things. The first principle is just that. Accept your feelings, don't fight them.
Like the Zen saying mentioned, trying to flatten waves just makes more waves.
Precisely. The second principle, do what needs to be done. Focus on action, even if you don't feel like it.
Don't let feelings paralyze you.
Right. Third, find pleasure in simple things. Engage with the world. And fourth, gradually return to social life, bringing these practices with you, living with purpose, but less dictated by, external validation.
It mentions Morita also used Nikan meditation.
Yeah, briefly. Another introspective practice focusing on self-reflection through specific questions. These different therapies just show there are many paths to a healthier mindset, which is so central to Ikigai.
Okay, let's talk about flow. This is a big one in the book.
It really is. They use that image of skiing down a mountain, totally absorbed.
Yeah, where your ego dissolves, and it's just the present moment, the action itself.
That's flow. Complete immersion, focused concentration, you're fully engaged, time vanishes, you perform effortlessly.
And the book says achieving flow is key to living your Ikigai, to having an optimal experience.
That's the connection they make, yes. And it's different from just, eating a chocolate bar or binge watching a show. That's immediate pleasure, maybe, but flow is deeper.
It mentions Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's research.
Right, showing that flow feels remarkably similar across different ages, different cultures. Whether you're a surgeon in Chicago or a weaver in Peru, the feeling of flow is the same.
And what happens in the brain during flow?
Total focus on one thing. Distractions fade away. Your mind feels ordered, clear, not scattered like it often is.
The book lists conditions for achieving flow from Owen Schaffer.
Yeah, 7 of them. Things like knowing what to do, how to do it, getting feedback on how you're doing.
Knowing where to go if it involves movement.
Perceiving the challenge as significant, but also perceiving your skills as adequate.
And the big one, being free from distractions. That gives you a kind of checklist for setting up flow-inducing activities.
Exactly, a framework to work with.
So, strategy 1 for getting into flow. Choose a task that's difficult, but not too difficult.
Right, finding that sweet spot. Too easy, you get bored. Too hard, you get anxious. Just right relative to your skills. That's the flow zone.
Like picking a book that grabs you but doesn't feel like wading through academic jargon.
Perfect example. Pushing yourself just enough.
Strategy 2. Have a clear, concrete objective.
Makes sense. Games and sports are great examples. The goal is usually crystal clear. Win the point, cross the finish line.
The book mentions that Boston Consulting Group study.
Oh, yeah, where employees complained about not having a clear team mission. Lack of clear objectives kills flow in workplaces.
It quotes Joy Ito compass over maps.
Have a clear direction, the compass, but don't get bogged down in overly rigid plans, the maps, especially when things are uncertain.
But you also need to let go of obsessing over the objective while you're doing the activity.
Crucial point. The Olympic athletes aren't thinking, must win gold every second. They're executing moment by moment. Flow requires presence.
Like writer's block. Sometimes focusing too hard on the finished product stops you from writing anything.
Exactly. Let the objective guide you initially, then immerse yourself in the process.
Strategy 3. Concentrate on one thing at a time. Monotasking.
Yeah, the book really slams multitasking. Says it lowers productivity, hurts retention, causes more errors, increases stress.
That arrow counting experiment they mentioned sounds revealing. Multitasking brains struggled.
They did. The message is clear. Focus on one thing.
Strategy 4. Eliminate distractions. Easier said than done sometimes.
Tell me about it. But yeah, a distraction-free space, control over what you're doing. It's vital. Technology is great, but it can hijack your attention so easily.
Trying to do deep research online is a classic example. One click leads to another.
And suddenly you're watching cat videos. We've all been there.
And the final strategy. Find your rhythm.
Dividing tasks, assigning times and places, maybe batching similar routine tasks together, creating structure can really help pave the way for flow.
Okay, so how does flow show up specifically in Japan? The book talks about artisans, engineers.
Takumis, yeah. Engineers, geniuses, even otakus, those really dedicated fans. The common thread is they're flowing with their ikigai.
There's this perception of Japanese dedication, right? That word ganbaru.
Yeah, to persevere, do one's best. And it's often applied with intense focus, even to tasks that might seem minor elsewhere.
Like the examples of retirees in rice field or convenience store workers being incredibly meticulous.
Right. Japan's presented as this place where ancient crafts and brand new tech exist side by side, both often pursued with that same dedication.
The makeup brush artisan in Kumano.
Great example. The factory floor had people doing single tasks, but the real core skill placing the bristles was done by one woman, alone, quiet, totally focused. Amazing dedication to a tiny detail.
And Steve Jobs was inspired by this kind of thing.
Apparently, yes. Japanese artisans, Sony engineers, Zen, even sushi. The book suggests he saw a common thread: sophisticated simplicity.
Not just simple, but sophisticated simplicity. Evolving. Always improving.
Exactly, driven by their ikigai.
And Jiro from Jiro dreams of sushi.
Another perfect Takumi example: decades making sushi, the intense training for apprentices, the tiny, focused restaurant. Sushi is his ikigai, his source of flow.
There's also a spiritual element mentioned, the Shinto belief in kami.
Right, spirits in objects, in nature. It fosters this deep respect, where the artisan almost becomes one with the material, with the process. That unity is part of the flow.
But what about us mere mortals doing, like, laundry? Can we find flow there? This is where microflow comes in?
Exactly. How do you make mundane tasks enjoyable?
The Shinjuku elevator operator story.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Repetitive job, right. But she was described as always smiling, enthusiastic. Her focus was on perfect execution, the movements, the announcements, and the fleeting positive interactions with people. That was her source of microflow.
Finding the small challenges and moments within the routine.
Precisely. And the book mentions rituals in Japan, too. In daily life, in business, stemming from Confucianism, Buddhism, Shintoism.
They might seem odd to outsiders sometimes.
But they emphasize process, manners, how things are done. And the book suggests these ritualistic workplaces can actually help facilitate flow by providing structure and shared focus.
So even for boring tasks, focus on details, set mini goals, find a rhythm, you can cultivate flow.
That's the idea.
Which leads to using flow to find your ikigai. How does that work?
The book suggests reflecting. What activities put you in a state of flow? What do they have in common? Why do they work for you?
Look for the patterns.
Exactly. The patterns in your flow experiences can point towards what truly gives you meaning, towards your ikigai.
Let's look at the ikigai of the super old, the centenarians. The book gives examples.
Yeah, like Misao Okawa lived to 117, said she enjoyed her past, still danced, didn't eat meat.
Anjing Kalmet went at 22. Oldest verified person.
Rode a bike at 100. And her humor. Everything's fine, even when things clearly weren't perfect physically. Amazing attitude.
And Walter Bruning, 114. What was his secret?
Keep mind and body busy, ate only 2 meals a day, worked as long as he could, still exercised at 112.
Common themes seem to be activity, positive outlook, purpose, but different paths.
Very much so.
The book also mentions ikigai artists.
Right, people who just keep creating, pursuing their passion deep into old age, like Hokusai, the printmaker.
What did he say?
Even in his late 80s, he wrote about how his art was still evolving, how he hoped to keep learning and improving until he was 110.
Wow. That really captures the idea of ikigai as a lifelong pursuit. Never stop learning.
Exactly. The book quotes T.H. White on learning being the one thing the mind never exhausts, and mentions scientists like E.O. Wilson still asking big questions late in life.
And artists like Ellsworth Kelly and Frank Gehry.
Yeah, talking about gaining clarity with age, staying curious, engaged with the present. It's inspiring.
Community seems vital, too. The book focuses on ogimi in Okinawa.
Yes, one of those blue zones. They talk about the moai.
What are those?
Informal groups, like chosen family. They provide mutual support, financial, emotional, social. It creates this incredible safety net and sense of belonging.
So community spirit is huge there. Volunteer work is common.
Very. Driven by wanting to help, not money. Community centers are hubs.
And that woman, Yuki, her philosophy was simple.
Just smile and have a good time. She even downplayed the importance of food compared to attitude and connection.
It sounds like a very structured social life with neighborhood presidents, people responsible for culture, festivals.
Yeah, really strong social fabric. The book describes a birthday party they attended at the community center.
Celebrating people in their 80s and 90s.
Yep. The youngest person there was 83, celebrating birthdays for 99, 94, 89-year-olds, singing, homemade cake, just pure joy and connection. It sounds amazing.
That sense of belonging must be powerful.
No doubt. The book also briefly mentions mabui. It's like the Okinawan concept of a person's essence, their spirit or life force. Believed to be immortal, can be passed between people. Adds a spiritual layer.
Okay, so based on all this, the book lists 10 rules of Ikigai from Ogimi.
Yeah, distilled wisdom from the centenarians. Let's see.
1. Stay active. Don't retire. Keep doing things you value.
2. Take it slow. Leave urgency behind.
3. Don't fill your stomach hara hachibu again.
4. Surround yourself with good friends, that moai spirit.
5. Get in shape for your next birthday, gentle, regular exercise.
6. Smile. Simple but powerful.
7. Reconnect with nature.
8. Give thanks. Cultivate gratitude.
9. Live in the moment. Avoid dwelling on the past or worrying excessively about the future.
And 10. Follow your Ikigai. Discover and nurture what gives your life meaning.
That's a great summary.
It really is. Practical advice grounded in lived experience.
The book comes back to hara hachibu saying it's easy to implement.
Yeah, just skip dessert sometimes or use smaller plates. They note portion sizes in Japan are often smaller anyway.
It also talks up green tea.
Oh yeah, lots of potential benefits listed. Cholesterol, blood sugar, circulation, antioxidants, even flu protection. White tea, maybe even more potent.
And for those of us in the West, it gives an antioxidant canon.
Foods readily available here: broccoli, chard, oily fish, citrus, berries, oats, olive oil, even a little red wine. Things known to combat aging.
Movement is key too, but gentle movement.
Right. It highlights the danger of sitting too much. Metabolism slows way down. Just getting up for 5 minutes every hour helps.
And it introduces Eastern practices.
Yoga, Qigong, Tai Chi, all focus on balancing body, mind, and spirit through movement and breath. Shiatsu massage, too, for energy flow.
The common thread is mindful movement, aligning body and consciousness.
Exactly. Accessible ways to stay active gently.
Okay, towards the end, the focus shifts to resilience and wabi-sabi.
Crucial concepts. Resilience is about bouncing back from setbacks, which you inevitably face when pursuing your Ikigai.
It's not just gritting your teeth, though. It's an outlook.
Yeah, cultivated, like that Japanese proverb. Fall 7 times, rise 8. Nana korobiya oki.
The book links this to Buddhism and Stoicism for emotional resilience.
Right. Both traditions offer ways to manage negative emotions and curb the ego. Buddha found the middle way. Stoics like Zeno aim to enjoy things without being controlled by them, prepared for loss.
What are some specific techniques?
Well, the Stoics practice negative visualization, imagining losing things you value to appreciate them more and be less devastated if you actually lose them. Seneca apparently even practiced deprivation sometimes.
And understanding what you can and can't control. The serenity prayer idea.
Exactly. Epictetus. It's not things that upset us, but our reaction to them. Buddhism, through Zen meditation, teaches observing thoughts and feelings without getting swept away by them. Detachment.
Both also emphasize impermanence.
Yes. Marcus Aurelius' Buddhist teachings, realizing things don't last, helps lessen pain and encourages appreciating the present.
This ties into wabi-sabi and ichigo-ichi.
It does. Wabi-sabi is finding beauty in imperfection, in things that are fleeting, asymmetrical, weathered, like an old wooden bowl.
And ichigo-ichi.
This moment exists only now and won't come again. Really appreciating the uniqueness of each encounter, each moment. Used in tea ceremonies, martial art.
It's a different aesthetic from the West's focus on perfection and permanence.
Very much so. Japanese architecture often embodies wabi-sabi, accepting decay and change, like the grand shrine of eyes being rebuilt regularly. Wabi-sabi values imperfection as growth. Ichigo-ichi values the present.
Then the book takes it a step further. Anti-fragility.
Yeah, Nassim Taleb's idea. Going beyond resilience, just withstanding harm, to actually getting stronger from shocks or harm.
Like the Hydra in mythology cut off one head to grow back.
Exactly.
Oh
How
my.
can we become more like the Hydra, less like fragile glass?
The book suggests 3 things.
1, create redundancies. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Have multiple income streams, maybe diverse friends, varied interests. Like the Ogimi folks often had gardening as a secondary job.
2, bet conservatively overall, but take small risks with big potential upside and limited downside.
Like investing most savings safely, but putting a tiny bit into high-risk, high-reward ventures where you can't lose more than that small amount.
And 3, Get rid of things that make you fragile.
Yeah, the good riddance approach. Stop unhealthy habits, cut ties with toxic people, shed obligations that drain you without adding value.
So anti-fragility helps you grow from setbacks and stay focused on your ikigai.
That's the idea. Use challenges to get stronger.
The epilogue wraps things up nicely, mentioning Mitsuo Aida.
A calligrapher and haikuist. His life was his ikigai, communicating emotion through his art.
His poems quoted are lovely about the here and now. Simplicity, happiness coming from the heart, perseverance.
They really capture the spirit. The book concludes that finding and nurturing your ikigai brings meaning, happiness, that state of flow.
And it lists those Ogimi rules again, basically, as the art of living. Plus that note from the Blue Zones about moderate drinking with friends and food.
A nice practical touch at the end. It brings together all these threads into a way of life.
So to wrap up our deep dive, the key takeaways seem to be: eat consciously, keep your mind and body active, manage stress with mindfulness, find your flow.
Learn from the long-lived their attitudes, their communities. Embrace imperfection and the present moment. Build resilience, maybe even anti-fragility.
And underpinning it all is discovering and following your own ikigai, whatever that may be for you.
Exactly. It's a very personal journey, but these principles offer a great map, or maybe a compass, like Ito said.
So, a final thought for you listening. Which of these ideas really resonated? Is there one small thing you could try integrating into your life? Maybe just taking a few minutes to think about what activities truly bring you joy and make you lose track of time? That might be the start of finding your ikigai.
A worthwhile reflection for sure.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep